Council, they're sort of coming up with this 15%. Well, 15% they get that is sort of our level above Auckland. So leaks is most of it, I would think. Keep going. And then the real issue, this is Wellington Strategy and Policy Committee, and again you've got to brainwash all the councillors as well, is reducing summer peak demand. That's terrible, you see. Okay, so let's go over next one, I think. More pressure on gardening. Now this is an interesting thing too. A garden hose can easily deliver 20 litres of water every minute. I'm not saying it's happening, but it's saying it can easily, okay? An hour of watering can use as much water as that. And so the next one, Wellington City took this up and expanded it. Next one. Wellington's highest use in summer. If every Wellington household turned on, we'd have 70 million extra litres used. Remember, we only use 80 million on average. That's just total rubbish. You don't all suddenly turn on your tap. It's a stupid statement, and it's just there to sort of brainwash people. This one here, they had this on the Greater Wellington website at one stage. So it looks like summer's really, really bad. It was a few years ago, only 2005 I think, but that suburb that they had to pick as a typical suburb was Days Bay Eastbourne. So which is very much a gardening place. So they go to the worst possible place to make the picture look really bad for the whole of Wellington.
So a place where user pays would have no impact at all, judging by income.
No, absolutely, yeah. Now these are the facts that you can get the data for 10 years, a decade of data. If we used our water in the summer, in the summer at the same rate we do for the winter. The winter is seen as a base rate. So if we use the base rate for the whole year, cut out all additional use, Wellington City would save 3.5%. Hutt City 4.6, Upper Hutt Poirua a bit more, and over the whole of the region 4.1%. That's cutting out all additional summer use. So there's nothing like 15% there. It's nonsense. So if we keep going. But the results of the propaganda, the secret residence panel, do you remember the residence panel, the secret one that was appointed? They wouldn't publish who they were. They were representing all of us, and they were fed all this propaganda, and they recommended meters. And then here's another thing to the Strategy and Policy Committee. There's strong, again from the early engagement, a strong feeling that we all want meters. Because what they did, it was a push-pulling idea. They say, do you want to build a dam, or do you want to have demand management, which people in Wellington City implied that was meters, and they got the response they wanted. So they will then say that this is what the people want. Next one. The interesting thing here, this is unfortunately that's got all those ones here are the significant ones. There's our population coming up here. Wellington's usage hasn't actually gone up that much, the average, say, and the population's been going up quite steadily. And this is going over a whole 33 decades. And if you look at this part here, this is an interesting bit, the decline there is in the early 90s. Now if we go to the next one, we go to Auckland, there's the same decline. There's something funny happening here, but the same decline in water. So it wasn't a metering thing that caused that decline, not necessarily. It was a worldwide thing. There was things happening through the 90s which reduced the per capita consumption of water. Next one. Now, there were studies done by brands a couple of years ago. I think the Auckland one was last year, and that was a couple of years earlier, which looks at Kapiti and Auckland. They actually metered houses, and they got what all of their individual uses were: their bathroom, their washing machine, their doing the dishes, and those sorts of things. And the average for Auckland came out at 179, and the average for Kapiti, the week one was in Kapiti, came out at 186. There's not a huge difference there. So you know, these are all metered, none of those are metered. It wasn't a huge sample, but it still gives very interesting results. So the summer total there to there, so there's an increase of about 10 or more, taking out the leaks, litres per head per day in Kapiti. And then we go over and we see what Bryan said. Bryan has said in a publication on water, it is estimated that over a fifth of water is used for watering gardens. When I wrote to them and asked where this came from, they didn't respond. When I rang them up, they said, see a guy in Kapiti District Council. And they're meant to be a scientific organisation. I think it's disgraceful that they had that. When you look at the wheat study, and it wasn't over a whole year, it was over a summer period and a winter period, you find that the about, say, 12% is outdoor use and 14%. Not much difference is there between Kapiti. And then the next statement that Bryan says, this was interesting, there's no justification for that. They say, as Kapiti is not metered, the incentive to save water is not very high. Now that's, again, that's sort of a push-polling thing, but that's from a scientific organisation. But then in the same document, you look down here, this is what they say. The data of this study showed remarkable similarities to the data that's Auckland for wheat, for the 12 wheat houses. The main difference between the two is a slightly higher summer outdoor usage on the Kapiti coast, which could be due to Kapiti's gardening culture and sandy soil types. So those are very inconsistent, those two statements. So there is a sort of right through the system, this idea that metering is going to save money, is going to save money. Now here's another interesting thing, this is the last one. 94, 95, 2008, 9, look at the costs. The resident, for a start, the actual water usage, 29.9 megalitres for Wellington, then 26.7 megalitres. So there's not much change over that period, which is 15 years. Hard to see, aren't they, I guess. Greater Wellington cost for Wellington City has actually gone down for that year. So the cost of water, for the water for Greater Wellington, only a sixth of their cost is power and chemicals. The rest is really just a standing cost that's there, maintenance and management of the system. Oh, sorry, we just go back to that. What I wanted to point out here. The residential ratepayers in 4 or 5 paid $6.83 million for 13.9 gigalitres. In 2008-9, they paid almost 3 times that quantity, 20 million, for not much more. The commercial ratepayers paid 17.2 million there for 8,000 megalitres. Now they're only paying 13 million for 8,000 megalitres. So there's been, and the unaccounted has gone from about 4.8 gigalitres to about 6.2 gigalitres estimate. So the burden has been shifting. That's part of this council's policy, of course, that the residents pay more and to shift. And you can see the huge effect of it on that side. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so
You
much.
used to be able to water the garden only every other day or something.
Yes.
So if they're so worried about watering, about the cost of water, why isn't that rule reintroduced?
It is there. It's the restricted hours are still there. They're still there.
So we're going to be having questions after everyone's spoken, so if we've got any more as well, we can go over those then. Thank you for that, Frank. Very interesting. And now Bryan Pepperell from Wellington City Council.
Thank you very much.
I doubt I'm the city council listening, Brian. Are you endorsed?
I'll just put this here and some notes, and I was actually really impressed with what the two presenters have said so far. And so what I'm going to do is just a sort of brief overview of a history and kind of how we've got to where we are. And I was thinking today actually that it's probably difficult for you guys to imagine this, but I actually knew a guy who was born in 1862. Now that takes us to the pretty close to the founding of when Wellington became a capital in 1865. And the government began laying the first water mains, and they were from Springs and Tinakori Road. And that was before the settlers, before that, settlers relied on wells